And we'll start with the pledge. Dennis, why don't you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the United States
For the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation.
one nation,
one nation, under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you. God bless our church.
Justice for all.
Okay, for the record, myself, John Romano, Chris McDonald, Dennis Santella, Alan Kibbe, Laurie Jones, Matt Gifford are of the Harbor Commission, and then we have Joe Schneiderline from Water Quality, and Bruce Lavallo, our harbor master, and we'll just add others in as they come. And why don't all the guests introduce themselves, please?
I'm Jim Bajak, consultant for Rudolph Credit.
I'm Dan Conlon. I'm representing the Graves, 52 Santa Street.
Mr. Chairman, was a agenda sent out?
Well, there's one that I just asked them. No, we didn't get it. Just prior to the meeting starting, I got it. I asked for an agenda and got it. And I just asked Anthony because Michelle, who normally does it, is not with us tonight. Anthony is from the city. And
It is posted on our website, John.
And
I just
I'm in the
saw it.
process of
I just got
emailing it too.
so they're sending out and Jeff Stedman is with us as well. They're sending out the agenda. So when it comes, just click on it and print it out for your own use.
Thank you.
All right. In John's Pinto's stead this evening, I've asked Chris McDonald to take the lead on the application review.
Yep.
And Chris, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you, please.
Okay. All right. I guess John did send an agenda, but I think that only went to you and I, John, on that.
Yeah.
Close.
Well, Michelle was supposed to incorporate it and send it out. It's incorporated on the one that's on the city website.
All right. So the first application for review is 2 Woodland Road. This is a 440 dock application. The applicant, Rudolph Credit, plans to install a 4x40 private recreation dock consisting of a 5-foot by 8-foot concrete landing that will be connected to an existing ledge outcrop along the owner's shoreline. A 3-foot by 33-foot aluminum ramp will be attached to the landing and lead to a 7-foot by 14-foot float with a 5-foot by 5-foot ramp landing float section on the waterward end. There will be 2 metal stabilizer rods attached to the concrete landing and the main flotation section. The main float will have 6-inch squares, 6-inch square by 30-inch long legs at the bottom 4 corners of the float that will serve as the float stop system to keep the bottom of the float 18 inches above the substrate at low tides. The mud layer at the proposed float site was investigated for surface thickness and found to be 12 inches thick over a hard sand bottom. The agent for the application has determined 30-inch legs at the bottom of the float will be sufficient length to keep the bottom of the float 18 inches off the substrate. I'll let John Bajak speak if he has anything to elaborate on.
The only thing I'd like to point out is that the ramp landing float section will be on the landward side of the float, not the waterward side. And also the commission usually requires that we show extension of the property lines on the plans. And it's kind of hard to show because the owner owns about 300 feet of shoreline, and the proposed dock is going to be located about 120 feet from the northern shoreline and about 180 feet from the southern shoreline. So essentially the extension of the property boundaries into the water wouldn't show up on the plans. So we didn't know what to do with that except not show it.
Right, okay.
Jeff,
Do you have a drawing or a drawing or a plan drawing you can share with us, Jim? We haven't seen any.
I've got a, yeah, I don't know how to show this other than,
All right,
No,
Oh,
that's not going to work.
no,
I'll share my screen.
they do have they did a survey of the entire property, and that's what I was trying to show.
Okay.
This isn't on those plans, but it does show the entire shoreline.
Right. So,
I could certainly email a copy of that to everybody.
all right. Can you guys see my screen?
yes,
Okay. So it's a plan views here. So there's a concrete pad up here on what's labeled as ledge. I'm gonna zoom in a little on the plan. The aluminum ramp, a landing part of the deck, and a 7 by 14 foot float. An elevation view. This area is on Wilson Point. It's the water body there is part of Sheffield Harbor in a pretty tidal flat area. It's part of the recreational shellfish beds are right off the shoreline there. It is so if I'm reading this right and understand the area, the low tide line is going to be a good bit from the dock itself. Correct? Do you know how far it is from the? Maybe it's on this mean.
Yeah, I can measure it off of this big plan. Let's see.
Jim, is there an updated plan? Because this plan dates back to 1979.
No, it's not 79, it's 21.
New one.
Okay, yeah, no, I was only able to see the way the angle was, the 79 and but that's the phone number.
Okay, from the ledge outcrop to mean low water is 110 feet.
Chris, can you go back to the previous drawing so you can see more of the? Yeah, that one.
Okay, yeah, you're right. This one has a little bit more of a view of the low water line here. So I guess my question to people on the commission with more experience, what's the regulation for having boats sit on the bottom at low tide? I believe it's not allowed, right?
Correct.
And that's the reason why we have the float stop legs.
Well, I'm not talking about the float. I'm talking about any boat that would be docked to it.
They don't plan on docking a boat there permanently.
Okay.
The float is, the dock is going to be used primarily at this point for paddle boarding and kayaking. They might, as far as I know, they don't own a power boat at this time, but if they do, they would just use it at the dock at a tide that, mid to high tide, something where, they don't hit the bottom, ruin their engine or anything, and they certainly wouldn't keep the boat there at low tide.
Is there any structure there now, Jim?
No. Only the seawall that runs along the property.
And you say the applicant has over 300 feet of property shoreline?
Yeah, as the crow flies, it's even more if you follow the mean high water line.
Was there ever a dock structure on this property?
I think there was further to the north a long time ago.
So I'm going to actually recuse myself from the vote because I'm very, very well acquainted with Rudy and Caroline. I've been friends with them for a while. But so I know the history. So the piece of property that is existing there has the older piece of property has a dock to the north. The property was subdivided and Rudy and Caroline built their house, and I think only moved in about a year ago.
Right.
It was built over the last couple of years. Maybe it was 2 years ago they moved down, lost a little bit of track there. They just sold their house in Village Creek last year. So this is the residence there itself is a new property. That the lot was subdivided
I
off
see.
of another piece off of an existing piece of property some point before that.
Jim, is there any sort of designated shellfish bed in that vicinity or affected by this?
I
It
believe
is.
that this is used for recreational shell fishing.
Yeah, so the recreational shellfish bed that triangular shape from Cedar Hammock to, I think it goes to Wilson Point, then over to, I think it's one of the markers off of Manresa. This is within it or adjacent to it, yeah.
Mhm.
It seems that the only potential impact may be, I think, the commission might have no objection to this proposal, provided that the Shellfish Commission has a chance to look at it and provide any comments.
But we don't have any referral from Shellfish.
No, because this isn't required to be provided to Shellfish. It's a general permit registration. So
Okay.
there's only a requirement to provide it to the Harbor Commission.
And somehow or other, I've been led to believe that, well, that there was a former application with this, maybe during the construction of this house.
Yeah, we just got some information. I didn't have a chance to really fully look through it.
There was a COP, certificate of permission that was issued for enhancement of tidal wetlands landward of the seawall.
Right, is there an active complaint? That's
No, no,
that's being
the work was-
adjudicated?
as far as I know, the work was done in complete compliance of the permit, and that the deep signed off on everything. So that COP is, as far as I know, it's a closed case.
So what was the purpose of, why were they doing the wetland enhancement?
I wasn't involved except after the fact, just to make sure that, things were done in compliance of the deep permit, as far as the after the fact survey and the filing with the land records. So I don't know all the details. I just know it was, as it says on the plan there, a wetland enhancement. Maybe it was for mosquito, I don't know. Might have been for mosquito control for all I know.
And what are we looking at here? What's the status of this project? What are we being asked to do here?
Well, we've got a CAM application for the dock. Whatever this, somebody made us aware of an existing or previous COP for some what Jim Bajak just described,
Right.
wetland modifications, whatever. And I just scrolled through this document and it doesn't. We were led to believe that there was a violation, but I don't see any violation documentation here.
As far as I know, there was none.
If you scroll down, there is a page on compliance or no. Compliance certification form, is that just,
That was completed and submitted to DEEP.
Yeah, that's a closeout form. That's not a violation, right?
Right.
Right. Okay.
Well,
Well,
with the understanding that there's no, based on the information provided by the applicant, that there are no outstanding violations and that if we can get a comment from the Shellfish Commission that doesn't express an objection to it, then I don't think the commission would have any objection to this. But in answer to Alan's question, what we're being asked to comment on is the general permit registration for the 440 dock, Alan. So provided that it meets all the requirements in the DEP general permit and doesn't cause an adverse impact on the environment or navigation, it's automatically approved.
Does this require float stops too, whether it has a boat or not, or?
It does require float stops and we are
Yeah.
implementing them.
that's what they're showing here. There's 30-inch float stops. So
And our standard recommendation or condition would be that no float or vessel attached to that float will rest on the bottom during any stage of the tide.
yes.
But provided the Shellfish Commission, I don't know if they meet next week, meet the first Thursday. But provided the Shellfish Commission has no objections to it, the commission would have, I don't think would have an objection to this.
What's the process here, Jen? Do we vote on these as we go? Is that-
Yeah.
Okay. Well, can somebody make the motion? I said I'm going to recuse, let the record show I'm recusing Chris McDonald's recusing himself on this vote. So somebody should make a motion.
If you're recusing yourself, we do still have a quorum. We have 6 people on the call, so. Okay, so who would like to make the motion? Why don't you formulate it, Jeff?
The commission would have no objection to this proposed project, provided the Shellfish Commission has no objections. And we would also transmit and with the understanding that there are no outstanding violations of environmental law on the property. And with our standard recommendation that no vessel or no float or vessel tied to the float will rest on the bottom at any stage of the tide.
Someone want to put that motion forward?
Yeah, I'll make that motion, John,
Okay.
for Jeff's statement, meeting all those criteria.
Moved by Matt, seconded by Dennis.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? 1. Chris
Um,
McDonald. Okay, so moved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
The next, there's an item in here on the agenda about the Board of Education. So we just roll through the CAM applications before we do that. So as long
Yeah,
as we're,
sure.
so the next application is 52 Samus Street, a CAM application. William and Gillian Graves, the applicants plan to replace an existing single-family non-flood conforming dwelling with a conforming structure. The proposed plans involve demolition of the existing structure and construction of a new single-family residence with swimming pool and associated site improvements. The new dwelling will be serviced by buried utility lines connected to the existing sanitary city sewer main on Samus Street. A storm water management system is proposed that will include sedimentation and erosion control measures and underground infiltration galleries. So
Is this so this is just to, do we look at this again under another auspices opposed to CAM? I guess not. It would be just the CAM itself. And do we have detailed? So this is not a preliminary application, right? This is a straightforward forward CAM application.
Yeah, I'm Dan Conlon, by the way. I represent the applicants. I'm the architect for the project, so I can answer any questions that you might have. But essentially, the summary pretty well describes the project. We're going to remove an existing structure that doesn't conform to the flood regs. We're going to construct a new building, which does. We have an engineered stormwater system that will decrease the amount of stormwater runoff from the property in the 2 through 100-year storms, and will meet the water quality standards of the Norwalk DPW drainage manual. We've got details of S&E controls during construction, and we're going to comply with all applicable FEMA and zoning regulations with the new build.
Including elevations of the house and all, and you're not doing any enhancements to any seawalls or
We are not.
existing docks or,
No, we have no work beyond the high tide line.
okay.
Yeah, this is on Farm Creek in row 8, and just for orientation.
Jeff?
And do you have a drawing that you could share with us on the screen, or just where the site is?
Yeah, I believe the application materials were forwarded to the commission electronically. I don't have the ability to share it here.
You should have it in your inbox, Jeff.
I had from John Pinto.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
There it is. There it is. You got it, Chris. Chris?
There you go.
Yeah, so this
There
is.
they go. This drawing pretty much tells the whole story here. So you can see the dotted line within the footprint of the new building is the existing structure. So we're going on top of that. We're building a building that's somewhat larger than what's there. So we will have some additional impervious surface area, but we're going to mitigate that with the Coltech recharges that are shown on this drawing. And the location of our silt fence is also delineated there, and the anti-tracking pad for construction is on the front side. So I think, in that way, pretty complete application. You can see that to the previous question, where, our distance to mean high water, the building's going to be about 79 feet and the pool about 52 feet from mean high water. And so the closest work we'll be doing will be actually installing the infiltrators. And we'll have a silt fence on the seaward side of that work.
You don't need any grade beams or anything for the pool, which is not germane to this application.
Yeah, honestly, we don't know. We're doing test borings tomorrow to determine. The testing we've done thus far showed sand and cobbles, but we only went down about 6 feet for the drainage. So we're doing borings tomorrow, and that'll tell us what the foundation systems will be for the house and the pool.
Right, and I'm guessing that the pool equipment's going to be elevated to above the.
Yes, it's the equipment pad elevation is at 1625 for the pool equipment, and it shows kind of on the left-hand side of the drawing on your screen now.
Could I ask you, Dan, is the proposal, would the proposal increase the impervious coverage of the site?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And that's, the runoff is mitigated in the 2 through 100-year storms in the drainage report by the Coltex. So the net runoff is actually reduced in all storms from a 2-year to 100-year frequency.
So you could attest that your stormwater management measures are not just mitigating the increase with the increased impervious surfaces, but they're resulting in an improvement over the existing site conditions?
That is correct.
And then I think
in all of those storm conditions.
Yeah, so I think with that understanding, the commission would consider finding this consistent with the harbor management plan because it's resulting in an improvement of existing runoff conditions. So that the finding that you might consider is consistent with the plan, provided that it meets all FEMA requirements for coastal construction and all city stormwater requirements.
All right, so somebody want to adopt that motion and put it forward?
Yeah,
Chris?
I'll make the motion that this proposal is consistent with the harbor management plan.
All right, do we have a
And
second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Lori seconds it. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Thank you very much.
Next application is 9 Shorehaven Road, Norwalk, Connecticut, CAM application. The owners, Keegan Lee and Linda Ho Lee, and MGM Shorehaven LLC proposed to build a single-family residence and related features at 9 Shorehaven Road. The proposed building is a single-family, 2-story, 5-bedroom residence with a 2-car attached garage. As the entire property is located in a flood hazard zone, the new residence will not have a basement. The proposed first floor elevation is 13 feet, and the garage floor elevation is 9 feet, which is at or above the outside grade around the garage. The residence will be served by public sewer and water. Power, cable, telephone service will be connected to the residence from an existing utility pole on Shorehaven Road. The proposed building complies with all applicable building setbacks, building height, and building coverage requirements. Property drainage system will consist of subsurface Coltech units located in the northeast portion of the property in flood zone. The new system will provide significant storm water management and water quality. This is a build on a currently vacant lot. Just for reference, on the beach area just to northeast of Calf Pasture and Shady Beach. Does the applicant have any to speak?
Yeah, I have a couple of slides here that might work for you. It's a PowerPoint. I'm Robert Masman. I think I was muted when you took the introductions at the beginning of the meeting. If you want, I can put my stuff up on the screen.
Sure,
here.
go ahead and share.
Yeah, please do.
All right.
Whose property was this formerly?
Knights of Columbus in the old days.
This is
So
the
that was-
parking lot for the
So that was the
KFC, right?
parking lot across the way.
This was, hold on, just bear with me for a second while I get my system straightened out here. This was the old Knights of Columbus parking lot. And as soon as I get this thing to work the way I want to, all right, let's try this.
We got it.
Okay. All right, and that's, it looks like I can't see what you can see, but this is my PowerPoint. And what I did was I had Matt Pop color up the landscape plan so you'd be able to see things a little bit better. But before I do that, this is the aerial of the neighborhood. The subject property is outlined in red. The Knights of Columbus was located on these 2 lots. And if you've ever been to a dinner there, you know you probably parked in this parking lot. The tidal water does come around under the bridge, and then it kind of backs up. I think this is called Half Mile Creek or something like that. It's pretty much a mud flat. And then you have this little development here, and then up from here, you can see the golf course in the upper left-hand corner. Here's a close-up.
I think,
I don't
yeah, I
think
think, yeah, I think you're not scrolling down where we can see, I can
Yeah.
see on the left, but if you scroll down to aerial photos,
Okay,
Yeah,
the
Slide
screen.
All we can see is the CAM landscape plan.
Yeah, that's what's up there now is the landscape.
oh, is
plan.
it? Oh, okay.
So hit the aerial photos.
You got me. I have to figure this out again. Okay, let me just do this.
Let the record show that John Crespo also joined the meeting.
Okay, and what, you're on, what can you see now? Anything?
Yeah, well, you had the aerial up. That was.
Number 6.
Okay. Is there an aerial up now?
No, the whole,
We have we have
Your whole
the
slide
tiles of
shows
all the
up.
slides.
All right, hold on. Oh, that's, okay. let's try this. Did the aerial
This is
pop?
lot-
Yep,
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
the aerial.
Okay, good. Now you're in my slides. Okay, so these two houses over here across the street are the original site of the Knights of Columbus Hall. And this was the parking lot. This is Half Mile Creek. It loops around, goes under the bridge out into the open waters of the Sound. This is the public portion of Shorehaven Road. The private portion begins right about at the end of the property. There are a couple of pillars here. I'll go back to the landscape plan up.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, so I thought this would be the best way to illustrate all of this. You can see the location of the new building. Obviously silt fencing all along the back. There's a tidal wetland boundary that runs back along here and it kind of loops up toward the front a little bit, and then it kind of loops up around over here on the left as well. No activity in the tidal wetland area other than to clean up some of the debris that might be back there. And no activity beyond, actually, the tidal wetland. There's no dock, there's no activity in the water or anything else going on seaward of mean high water or the coastal jurisdiction line. In the front here are a couple of sewer system easements that were done, I think, back when they straightened out Shorehaven Road and made this public. So we'll be connected to the public sewer. The Cultec system is down here where my cursor is. That is designed for a 100-year storm. And because there's nothing here already, it's not just based on the change in impervious. So this is a pretty significant plus in terms of water quality and stormwater management. And obviously there won't be an impact on flood elevations. We're pretty much on open water here. And that's basically it. Landscape plan shows some plantings, new plantings along in here in green. Other than that, it's lawn and a driveway, a typical house. And that's it. So no impacts to navigation, obviously. Siltation is controlled during construction by the usual silt fence, post-construction stabilization. And that's it. So I'll answer any questions you might have.
As the city weighed in on, I'm guessing it's the environmental impact people and all from the town in terms of the type of plantings to be used?
We're going through that process right now. This site is, most of the shoreline down here is on the DEEP Natural Diversity Database map. And we have an application up with DEP right now for review of the plan. And I'm sure if they have any issues with any of the environmental impacts, we'll find out about it. And we're in the referral process right now to the other city agencies.
So if it's going through deep, it most likely will come back to us for a sign off again.
Probably not. This is a different kind of review. It's not a like an old OLISP review. It's the biologists up there look at it for potential impacts to either vegetation that's unique and protected, and the same with fauna, I guess you'd call it, animals and sea
Right.
creatures and things like that, to see if this development would have any impact on those. But it's not a, I mean, you'll get, this will go up to DEP as a CAM referral, which all the CAM applications
Okay.
will get, but I don't think this would come back to you for anything.
All right. Well, Jeff, you want to craft some language for this one as well?
Can I ask Bob a couple questions, or?
Sure.
Is the sewer, does the sewer exist there now, Bob, or would it be extended along into the easement area? The municipal sewer? that you would use?
I think it exists in there, otherwise it wouldn't be there. If the sewer were located in Shorehaven Road itself, you wouldn't need the easement, so there's got to be something in there.
So there's an existing sewer that you would connect to, and then is there, does the Conservation Commission get involved when there's a setback from tidal wetlands that has to be complied with, or is that exclusively
No.
Deep's?
It's DEEP.
And what is the setback from the, I'm assuming you're compliant with it, but I'm just curious, what's the setback from a tidal wetland boundary?
There is none.
There's no setback required of the building of the new structure to be set back from the tidal wetlands?
Right.
Well, that's interesting.
It's not like inland wetlands where there's an upland review area. And I think what covers it is the 100-foot review area under the CAM statutes. So it's not a setback per se, and it's not a setback under the wetland regulations either. It's an upland review area. But when it's coastal, we call it a CAM area or a CAM review area, and that's 100 feet. But it's not a building setback. And
Well,
obviously, you can't do anything in tidal wetland without DEP approval.
Well, it's interesting. That's educational, because if it was a freshwater wetland, then there would be a setback requirement, right? From a stream, but
No.
you're saying when Deep reviews this as a coastal site plan, would they at that time, could they say that the building is too close to the tidal wetland, or that we recommend it be repositioned?
They usually don't. What they do is look at it for potential impacts to coastal resources.
Which would be the tidal wetland.
Should be the
So-
tidal wetlands and, the whatever's out there, mud flats and, any shellfish beds, for example, or tidal vegetation and that sort of stuff. But just like with inland wetlands, that 100 feet is a review area. It's not a setback.
Interesting. Now, for my own information, I'm going to ask Deep about that, if they have any guidance so there's no deep guidance then provided for having to do with setbacks from tidal wetlands. All right.
Well, their guidance is stay out
Is
of.
there a front setback, Bob?
Yeah. The front set, I think it's 40 feet, but let me take a look. Yeah, the side setbacks where we got plenty of room. The front setback is 40 feet. And we comply with that. That's to the building.
I'm just curious, how far then is the structure from the tidal wetland line?
Let me scale it on the sheet I have here. If you just. Where are the tidal wetlands? Forget. Here we are. The closest is probably about 25 feet, 20 or 25 feet. And that's actually, well, to the building, it's back along, right, this is the tidal wetland here, these dots, so it's over here. And then there's a deck back here as well. But there's no setback in tidal when it comes to tidal wetlands.
John,
That's interesting. That, oh,
yeah, just to point out a few things. I'm pretty familiar with this area because I love to kayak back there. And at a mid tide to a high tide, you can get a motorboat back there. As long as it doesn't draw more than 2 feet of water. Ironically, I've been out there in storms, and that part of Shorehaven Road actually, on occasion, can be underwater.
It floods.
And the other aspect of that is the last heavy rain we had, I happened to be down at the intersection of Shorehaven Road where it connects to the road at Calf Pasture. And the sewers, storm sewers, were erupting. The water
When-
wasn't going down. It
Down
was
at Canfield?
Yes. The water was actually coming up out of the storm sewers. And that can create a problem. So just keep that under consideration.
It seemed that it would be the same problem that the rest of the, well, maybe not the one in the corner here, but all of these properties on Shorehaven Road would have the same problem.
I haven't walked out there because it's private area, or at least it used to be. And that corner lot, actually, I've seen the grass underwater.
This one,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like it's consistent with what's on the mapping. Let me see if this, okay, this is a good one. I have the proposed site plan here that transcribes the flood zone boundary, which is this dark line that divides, I guess, the upper right portion of the property from the rest of it. The upper right portion, if you can't read what's here, it's flood zone VE at elevation 14. And it would stand to reason that this would be flooded during the storm events. Then you have flood zone AE elevation 12 is the rest of the site. So there have been storms over the last couple of years that have caused flooding up at these sorts of elevations. This house is going to be designed so that it complies with the FEMA regulations, and the first floor elevation will be a foot above the minimum, a foot above 14, which is, or, I'm sorry, 12, which is going to be 13. So it's going to comply. You know, the garage is going to be down at ground level, which is permitted. But we're building this in compliance with the flood regulations.
Not to interrupt, but what you're building would be in compliance with the existing zoning. You're not requiring a zone change or a variance of any sort.
Correct. Everything complies with zoning. Actually, before I got involved in this, the applicant submitted plans for a building permit, and they got held up by zoning and found out you needed a CAM application.
Well, you know, Deep is taking a quite, well, I'm sure you know this, sort of a hard position with respect to proposals that would increase residential density in the coastal floodplain. But I don't think that they could make the argument here because it's compliant with the existing zoning. So you're not increasing the existing permissible density. And you're showing that this is outside of you're saying that this is outside of the 100-year floodplain?
No, it's inside.
Okay, that line, it's within.
100% inside.
Okay, I was looking at that diagonal line and I didn't quite understand that. All right.
It's a 1 acre zone, AAA. And this site is an existing lot. It was what happened was back around 2000, when the Knights of Columbus closed down and the Jewish Center next door closed down, they divided up this parcel with the two across the street and made a total of three. So one of those lots is less than an acre, but this one and then another one across the street are, well, this one's over an acre, the other one's just about an acre. So we're not increasing density or the allowed density here. And 1 acre, if you can imagine 1 acre zone in Bell Island, you never happened because those lots are tiny. It's very dense.
No, I don't want to keep talking, but the understanding that what you're proposing, you could build as of right under the existing zoning.
Yes.
I would think that maybe the commission's, just for discussion, would be to have no objection to this, though, but provided deep, when it reviews this, and the CAM review doesn't raise issues having to do with the proximity to the tidal wetlands. That would be Deep's responsibility or authority over the tidal wetlands. I'm just surprised that there's no guidance as with respect to the setback of a new structure from the tidal wetlands line.
Well, to the extent it's guidance, they're not going to allow construction activities in a tidal wetland.
Oh, yeah, but
So
I'm
you
talking about the
necessarily have to
setback.
have some separation, but, you know,
I think that's Deep's call. The proximity to the tidal wetland line is, I didn't understand that there's no standard that's applied. I'd like to hear what Deep has to say about that, and provided that Deep has no objection or requires any change in the location of the building, then I think the commission would response would be not to say it's consistent with the plan, but to say it would have no objection to it.
I think that's appropriate. I mean, at this
That's just my thought. for discussion.
It's not a non-conforming lot. It's an actual building lot.
Yeah, it's a building.
It was carved out and it was designated as a building lot
Yeah,
back in 2020 when they did the original subdivision
yeah.
of the property. So, however they work out the mechanics and the location and whatever Deep's requirements may be, as far as we're concerned, it's consistent as long as, well, I don't say consistent, but we have no objection.
Yeah.
As long as they have the proper drainage systems put in, which you're saying is to the right side
Yeah.
of the building. And I guess that's it right there that you're pointing out. It looks like a numerous amount of Coltex
Yeah.
that are in there to capture the water from the site.
Yeah, there's a lot of, because it's
39.
all new impervious area.
Correct.
The added runoff is pretty significant, and therefore the Coltex system has to be pretty substantial.
39.
And I mean, in that water, where's that water gonna go? It's gonna gravity through the ground back to the Gulf in the back. So, and that's the requirement, because that's what they wanted to do. They want to keep it on site, that it's not getting
Right.
run off somewhere and creating other issues. So that
This is educational. So Bob, from an engineering perspective, there's no difficulties or constraints having to do with those subsurface Coltex system in the floodplain. That's something that's permitted under the FEMA guidelines to have those systems, and they
Right.
they can be in the coastal floodplain. All right.
If you're inundated in a flood, the Coltex aren't going to do anything for you.
right.
The Coltex work when you have stormwater without a flood. And the important thing here is that first inch or two is going right into the Coltex as a water quality feature as well.
My question though was, if they're inundated during the flood, does that somehow damage them or decrease their future or their effectiveness, when the flood recedes?
No, because they're protected, they're buried. If you're looking for consistency, there is talk in the harbor management plan about siltation and maintaining environmental or avoiding environmental impacts that are unnecessary, and that's what this plan does. We have the silt fencing, landscaping, the Coltex, and best practices are going to be utilized here. So we're consistent in that regard.
Yeah, but I would say, we have no objection is more appropriate, because Deep may, and let them express it if they need to,
Right.
and leave it like that.
And
Okay.
Deep will send their comments to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they'll deal with it. And
Right, correct.
we'll have to address it there.
All right.
So Chris, you want to put
Yes.
forward a motion about no objection?
Yes, the motion is that the commission has no objection to the application for, what number is this? 8 Shorehaven?
9.
Nine.
9 Shorehaven. It's a CAM application. It's a 9 Shorehaven CAM application.
I'll make that motion that it applies with all the current rules and regulations.
But then again, the condition was provided that DEEP has no objections or requires any modifications based on the proximity to tidal wetlands.
And have that language included into the motion, and Matt, you're seconding it?
Yeah, I'll make that or second, whatever it is. I just want to make sure that that's noted that, per Jeff's comments, that it's post the CAM review.
Yeah, I accept the amendment. Go to the motion.
Okay, is there any objection to the motion? Abstentions? So moved.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks,
Bob.
Bob.
Good to see everybody again.
Yeah, good to see you too.
It's good to be seen.
Well,
Okay, I guess okay, we gotta go back to the referral about the
Board of
schools.
Education. Yeah, let me see if I can put that up. That was in text amendment. Okay. This, let's see, let me share my screen. We can look at P and Z's letter here. Okay. So this is from planning and zoning. Brian Baker. So this stems from, I believe it's from the Board of Education, correct?
Is that a statewide thing? Because all the people that were copied on there, New Canaan, Darien, Westport.
Maybe they have to notify adjoining towns. I don't know what their process is. Those are all bordering towns. That's my only guess on that. So this is related to application of the Norwalk Board of Education related to school municipal use. And it's basically talking about raising the height limitations. So that's the justification. So here's some of the articles that has to do with height. So the red color is the edits, the blue is the rationalization. So they're raising it from 50 feet to 65 feet, right? And I think this has to do with building. They talk about because of gymnasiums, auditorium, pools.
Is there an underline to this? I mean, is it truly for the schools, or could it have been like for the mosque that they wanted to build on Richards Avenue? The height with the towers and all of that stuff. Because
what was that on Richards Avenue?
A mosque that they were looking to build there.
I mean, this applies to church, private school, library, or public museum.
Without seeing the whole thing, you might say that this proposal is not addressed in the harbor management plan, and therefore the commission has no comment. If
I agree with that.
If it's just a height.
Well, they're talking about parking too. I mean, just scroll through it, Chris. And
sure. So the next one, this is about setbacks.
Yeah, they've lessened the parking requirements. I mean, so far, none of this affects in general the harbor. They're not talking about any drainage or distance or.
Right. Right, and they're reducing the required parking per employee from 1.5 spaces to 1 space per employee. And I just believe that's parking on the last one.
Building setbacks.
I guess
Yes,
in
I
this
just
case,
want to say on the parking, was that a reduction from 1.5 to 1, or was that a
No,
change?
reduction, Laurie.
yes,
It was a 1.5 down to 1.
yeah, and then it looks like this last one is they're increasing the
Mhm.
setback for the rear of the property to 80 feet from 40 feet to buffer from any joining neighborhoods.
Well, to the extent that the application of these new requirements might result in an increase in impervious coverage, the commission would support that. If they're increasing the setback distance of buildings, that means that it seems that there'd be more of an opportunity for plantings and more pervious areas, which the commission would encourage for water quality purposes and absorbing runoff.
That's the line. Yes, and just the parking and, any new construction, the parking requirements would be decreased, which is one of your main impervious surfaces.
Yeah,
is your parking.
decreasing required parking spaces and increasing the building setback distance, that's an opportunity for providing additional pervious areas, which the commission would encourage on all public buildings or public building sites.
Did you scroll back up, Chris, just to see what it says about the high school parking?
It just reduces it all for employees. It's the same
And
change. for each.
no student parking.
I don't know I don't know how they handle student parking.
I don't either. Means a lot of cars parked in the street, I guess, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know how it works. I mean,
I would think that the current parking requirements will stay in place. They're just revising the ones for the per worker employment person.
right.
John, I'd like to throw my more than 2 cents in on this.
Ed,
First of all, the height requirement. When I did the ed specs for Brian McMahon High School for the science wing, I suggested that they go up instead of taking away from school grounds. And they could have easily have done that. I mean, they do it in New York City all the time. When they run out of space, they don't knock buildings down next door, but they do, but they also have the capability of going up. We could have done that, but they didn't want to. Now Norwalk is looking at, and we've talked about this, all the people moving into all the construction that we have, schools are going to have to expand. So this is one way they could finally be listening and thinking about, okay, can we go up and create more classrooms going up?
surprised they didn't put the Joe Schneiderline rule on the
There you
top
go.
proposal, so.
The other thing is, if you've been following the recent episodes with the Board of Education, they are buying Hatch and Bailey.
Mhm.
And that is on the edge of a salt marsh, right across the street. So they might be considering what is going on with that. Now, I'm not familiar if that area is actually flooded, but it might be worth taking a look at to see if they're doing a lot of this restructuring to compensate for that. And the other thing is, one of the more beautiful spots in Norwalk is the Lakota Grounds, which used to be the old Holy Ghost Monastery / GE / whatever.
Mhm.
That's been sold to have a school built there, private school. So they might be setting that up for whatever construction they have to do. And they have wetlands on the grounds, quite a bit. And they're beautiful wetlands, beautiful ponds.
Stations at a cross.
You got it. You got you covered.
You see a lot of fishing in there.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
My
So,
understanding is there's no construction plan there. They're intending to use the building as is with dormitory and classrooms. They're already there
yeah, and it's a
for now.
beautiful facility, and I think Norwalk blew it when they didn't buy it and use that for a school.
Yeah.
But stay la vie. But they might be considering all these options. This town has grown 10%, over 10% in the last 5 or 6 years. So they've got to get ready for it. And that this might be their way of getting ready for it.
All right, so we're just gonna handle this with a no objection.
Do you want to make, do you want to make a
Or
comment?
no,
Sam?
or no comment.
Or do you want to have no objection or make this statement that to the extent that this would result in opportunities for less impervious surfaces, the commission would be supportive of that for water quality?
Well,
improvement?
you know, we could say a magnitude of things, but I think at this particular point, they're just running it by us as a courtesy. Like they're doing it to every other department. So I would say either no comment or no objection. What's the flavor of the commission?
Well, building height is not something covered in the harbor management plan, so
No.
in that regard, it would be no comment, I
Yeah,
think.
No comment would be required.
Yeah, no comment.
Okay. All in favor, no comment?
Aye.
Any abstentions or negative feeling about it? All right, so moved. All right, we'll go to chairman's report, and I really don't have much of a report other than what everyone else is aware of. Jeff?
Then I don't know if this is appropriate under application review or you want to address it later, but with respect to the walk bridge, the Corps of Engineers has published a public notice concerning the application by the DOT for the Corps of Engineers permit. And the comment period is I think it's up on July 6th. So my suggestion or hope is that the commission would agree to provide to the Corps of Engineers the same basic comments and concerns and recommendations that were provided to the DEEP in the DEEP permit process.
I personally think that would be extremely appropriate because it's our feelings. It's been vetted out with us many, many times. It addresses all the issues that we felt that we had, and just bring it to their attention and let them deal with it.
And then related to that is the, and again, we repeat this, but some of us have worked on this for 7 years, but the DEP, the permit has been issued now to DOT. And the hearing officer issued her finding or her determination after the public hearing. And not to be personally critical, but the Harbor Commission's comments weren't addressed in any significant way. They were essentially dismissed as the commission not having standing anything different than the general public. And that's the reference to the ongoing case that started in Greenwich. But even if you take the commission's comments as general public comments, they weren't addressed in any thoughtful way, in my opinion, including the issue we raised about the harbor master's authority to station all vessels and how DOT or DEP could give a a permit to DOT to station barges and work vessels without consideration of the harbor master's permit. So that wasn't addressed at all. Neither were our concerns about the vessel relocation and the potential of redevelopment of the properties and the water quality recommendations that we made. And interestingly, and maybe this reflects, well, it reflects what it reflects. There was a comment made that the Harbor Commission made water quality comments, but there were no recommendations in the harbor management plan concerning water quality matters having to do with the walk bridge, as if we might have had the foresight a number of years ago to figure out how stormwater should be managed from the walk bridge, the redevelopment. But of course, we have many other policies, that, including monitoring of infrastructure projects affecting the harbor and projects. But anyway, I thought it might also be appropriate to write a thoughtful response. And it doesn't affect the permit now because the permit has been granted, but to write a thoughtful response to the hearing officer's comments that in my opinion and others was dismissive and did not address in any significant way the Harbor Management Commission's comments.
Well, Jeff, why don't you put that together?
All right.
Nothing is going to change between now and the next meeting.
No,
And then we could take that letter, distribute it once it's done. We can look at it and vote on it at the next meeting.
but I just think it reflects a lack of understanding of municipal plans to say that the water quality recommendations weren't relevant because we didn't have any recommendations in the harbor management plan specific to the walk bridge. I mean, it just doesn't, it's. Well,
It's
anyway.
not consistent overall,
It's
especially
not
that
bad.
the
It's, you
Commission
know,
takes the lead over the Water Quality Committee.
yeah, as we said, that the plan can't have a solution to everything that might arise in the future, but it can have policies that the commission applies to situations that do arise. And the issue with the harbor master's authority is a significant matter. What are they saying? That no permit is necessary from the harbor master to station those work barges? But I think we should make these comments known, and we're still waiting for the Coast Guard permit as well. We commented on that. We don't know what the status is of the Coast Guard bridge permit. And we talked about this with Deep as of last week. They've heard nothing from Eversource about the status of Eversource's permit application to run the electric line under the harbor. So pardon me for talking. My thought or for discussion was, can the commission agree to respond to the Corps of Engineers public notice with essentially the same comments that were transmitted to Deep? And can we think about crafting a response to the hearing officer's findings on?
Yeah, we can vote on sending to Army Corps, keep it as separate issues.
Mhm.
And so all in favor of sending a duplicate of what we submitted to the hearing to the Army Corps for them to vet it out additionally with the DOT. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, objections, seeing none. So Jeff, move that forward.
All right, let's do July 6th.
Right, so move that forward. As far as the letter is concerned, put one together,
All right.
voicing our feelings, because all it is feelings at this point, and what they disregarded. And the emphasis should be on the harbor master's authority overall, because that is by state statute as well. And for them to discard it and dismiss it in its entirety and give them the ability to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, and how they want to do it without any interaction, to me is ludicrous. There's no regard to public safety as far as that's concerned. So that's a very important point to be honing in on.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, John, and Jeff, your statement was great earlier. It's just so troubling on a number of different areas, but specifically the two in that safety concerns with the harbor master is paramount.
Yes.
And then as a board, we are deemed to be the eyes and ears of the city during projects such as this and how they affect the harbor directly.
Correct.
And I can't think of a project that would have more impact, good or bad, specifically our concern on the bad side, on the harbor. And the minimal at best information that we're being given and all of the questions, concerns, issues that we bring up are basically just being discarded.
Yes.
So, I think the harbor master and safety, number one, and number two, these agencies are just going storming ahead with, and we talked about this 18 months ago and 24 months ago. That
Right, they're rolling over us, and the worst part of it is that there are so many moving parts on our waters with the rowers, with the barges, the traffic coming in, boats going into marinas, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. That the point man is the harbor master. So to just not be guided by his requests or requirements, and not to have a requirement for the harbor master and marine police as extra duty to be on site is totally ludicrous.
I mean, one of the first problems we came up with was when they were doing testing and they had no divers, no flags, and no, watch boats. I mean, like, could you imagine someone doing a private, construction project and trying
shut
something like
down.
that?
They get arrested.
Maybe shut
Yeah.
down.
Within minutes. So it's just a constant disregard for the rules and regulations that everybody else has to apply by.
Yep.
And, it's something that is turning, our beautiful neighborhood of East Norwalk into, a zone that you need to get involved with all sorts of different agencies. It's just really troubling that no one kind of allows us to have any insight here.
Right.
One other question about the adjudicatory here to Jeff. Do you know if they made any determination about the use of Manresa? Because that was the other community groups push for that.
They spent the issued decision addressed the concerns of the Manresa Island residents or groups to a significant extent, much more than the Harbor Management Commission. There were pages of addressing those concerns, but eventually saying that they were all those concerns were addressed by the DOT. The Harbor Commission's concerns were dismissed very quickly, but they spent a great amount of time, and you should have sent it to you, Chris. It's on the DEEP website,
Right.
I believe. But yes, the hearing officer made a point of addressing the Manresa Island comments, but in summary, to saying that they were all addressed by DOT and the proposed project can go ahead as planned.
All right, so they've green lighted it without any additional contractual obligations
Or modifications.
Interesting. Okay, good to know. Thanks.
All right. Again, chairman's report. Nothing really new to report other than what we're discussing now, and that is a resultant of us having these joint meetings. Everybody seems to be aware of. We're sharing a lot of different information. We're working on in committee on meeting with the state agencies and city agencies to apply for grants, and we're going to have a meeting on that tomorrow, and hopefully a site meeting at Vets Park, and which we'll give a report on for the grants that we've discussed before moving forward. There's timelines that we have to meet for those too as well, and that regarding street ends and working on that south border of Vets Park for shellfish restoration. All right, moving along. Harbor Master, Mr. Lavallo.
Good evening, everybody. A few things. I've been out with Norm Edwards, checking on moorings. I was able to we pulled like 4 abandoned moorings. With doing that, I was able to place 7 new moorings with the income of about $618. The people putting their boat in. I'm still working on, I got about 10 expired on my list that I'm trying to track down to see if they have a mooring or they don't have a mooring. With the online system, it's kind of hard because the information doesn't get updated enough, which I'm trying to do now. There's no wake buoys. The 5-mile-an-hour buoys in the harbor haven't been put out yet. I talked to Sergeant Lepack of the Marine Unit, and I told him that I'm going to have Norm Edwards is going to go out and put them in place. I also sent an email to DEP to see if I get a couple more 5-mile-an-hour buoys. I guess Pete said that a couple of them got washed away. We don't know where they are. Alan Kibbe and myself made contact with representatives of DACWA, talking about some transit moorings and what we have to do. And I'll turn that over to Alan right now because he's a little bit more familiar with the DACWA capabilities.
Yeah, we had a yeah, thanks. We had a great presentation from the DACWA guys yesterday, video virtual thing. And I guess that those of us have used that service. It's kind of does all you need to do in terms of transient boats, making reservations to use transit moorings, anywhere on the planet, really. They're and they do a great job of promoting their destination. So it's for our goals of economic development and more people coming by water to Norwalk. It's a great service. Essentially, they do all the reservations, take care of all the money, they manage the whole thing, and retain a lot of data. So all the people who've used your moorings are in a list that you can get for marketing purposes, to send email blasts and reach out to them to how is your time in Norwalk? How'd you like the mooring? Do you want to come back? And so on and so forth. It's a I think, very inexpensive proposition for us. It's $199 to set up the software. We have to have someone that manages that, which I guess is the harbor master. Those are things we need to settle on and discuss how that happens. The carrying charge is $166 a month to be subscribed to the service. And then they charge 3.5% on every credit card transaction, which is their processing cost. Really.
Alan, is that 166 a month? Is that a 12-month commitment or is it seasonal?
Yeah, I think it's 12-month commitment.
12 month.
So, I mean, if we do the math, the 199 and
It's $2,200 a year.
A year.
right. What is our estimated potential income? Have we run any numbers on that?
I think it's with 2 moorings. I think it's probably a break-even proposition. I've noodled around with that, but that's the idea, and
how many are we participating putting out, Bruce?
Right now, will probably be 2 in the harbor, and we could set up a couple around the islands for people to tie up for overnight or during the day, or that would draw in the income.
We had, I think it was 5 or 7 that were adjacent to the launch ramps
The plan,
that
yeah.
were removed during the dredging. Is it feasible to get those put back in because they were already pre-approved, and you have a layout?
I think the issue is down there is you have to have a front and a stern
Right.
mooring, and I think I don't know if people have that type of experience of coming in and doing that. A little bit more south of the harbor right now. There's two spots where, like for a 40-foot boat and probably up to like a 35-foot boat, that won't impede the channel. I talked to Norm about next year, realigning all that stuff out there. There's a lot of work that we can do to probably get more out there.
Well, whatever we do, I think it'd be incumbent upon us to have it revenue generating or on the minimum as a test case, revenue neutral. I mean, if we have to go into the hole with this, it would, I don't think it would sit well.
Like I said, if we put a couple out amongst the islands, I think that would be a good draw too, for the people come in and spend the weekend or whatever.
And I think putting them out in the Seaport Association area near Sheffield Island would be terrific. Maybe a little to the west to the east of that, so it's a little more protected. But again, for the attraction of going ashore at Sheffield Island and seeing the lighthouse, and I think it's another good destination for a boater. Cops Basin on a little further west would be a place for one transient mooring perhaps. But I think there's it seems like to me it was with two moorings. We haven't set a rate. If it's $40 or $50 a night, I think it comes out to about $2,200. We figured we might achieve from that.
And then plus with the representative said that, say Milford, use Milford Harbor as an example. If there's an overflow, they say, okay, Norwalk, you can go down to Norwalk. So, they do the overflow because there's nothing down this end of Fairfield County.
And even in a local area, they do Norwalk Yacht Club, Oyster Shell, Oyster.
Oh,
Marina,
Oyster Bend.
Oyster Bend,
for
all those
docks,
things.
yeah.
If they have a overflow, they'll send them to one of their other customers in the region. So I think it's a terrific service. It's seamless. It's all credit card. They communicate with the local electronically via a computer with all the local destinations. They receive a reservation from online from their clients, and then they don't confirm it until they have a confirmation back from the harbor master here or the dock master if it's a dock location.
Have we considered including the visitors dock as part of this?
Well, that's not our call. I'll tell you my sad story about that is that I've been kind of stonewalled since February that I haven't been able to get my email to go through to the city. It goes into the citywide junk file now, we've discovered. I've spent hours. And so what happens is every time you send something to Ken Hughes or Parks and Rec or Jessica Casey, it doesn't go anywhere. And so you wait a couple of days to hear back, and then you send the email again, then you call, leave messages. Did you get my email? It's very frustrating. So I've been sending things to Ken Hughes by US Postal Service. I've been using stamps to get information to the city. So it's a cluster down there.
I didn't have any luck getting responses from Rex and Park.
I've discovered from Michelle actually what's actually going on, because we've been trying to have a discussion with DACWA with the visitor regarding the visitor stock and our proposed moorings to get it all folded all into one kind of operation. That's all been stalled. I don't know if intentionally or because of no email working with the city, but Parks and Recreation has just completed request for RPI or RFP and has bid a new software package for recreation and parks that is, I think, intended to take care of reserving all their fields and all their Parks and Recreation and Parks resources. And Michelle came back to me and said, the Recreation and Parks thinks that their package that they're buying and they haven't gotten yet will take care of all our mooring reservation needs. So we don't need to be talking about DACWA. And The one conversation I had with Ken was he said, well, their fees are outrageous and I don't like them. So I think that we have a little bit of a barrier with the recreation and parks on this. And
Okay,
Michelle has said that once Recreation and Parks gets their software package delivered, they'll loop us in on what it can do. That's what's been said. So I'm very frustrated about the whole thing. I think it's no communication from the city, no response to emails. It's just pathetic in my view. The thing about the service is that they certainly could take care of all the city's docking needs. It's really the only game in town for doing this. There's another outfit called Snag a Slip that if you go on their website, they have very few destinations they can take you to. DACWA has purchased marinas.com, which is the other big website that directs you to marinas around the United States, around the world. So it's kind of a one-stop shop, and there's really no competition. So my current activity with this is that because of the cost, it really is we don't have to bid that out. We're not spending $20,000 on something to get signed up. And I believe that the information that the DACWA guys gave us that they already do the 5 Mile River Commission's moorings, and they have a 5 Mile River Commission moorings. The funding goes to the city of Norwalk. So there's probably already accounts set up with the city of Norwalk and a communication billing invoicing system that already works for the 5 Mile River Commission. So I'm trying to talk to the controller to see if we can just set up a kind of a similar parallel account to receive money. I mean, essentially, we're paying our maintenance fees, and then we get the revenue from the moorings by check from or electronic transfer from DACWA. But also, if you go onto that website, it's remarkable. You just look up Connecticut destinations, look at Norwalk, and you'll find all kinds of places with really nice pictures, description of what's there, how to get around, how to get on the mooring, how to get ashore. All that's there. And as much as information as we could provide, they'll put on the site for us.
yeah, well, it sounds like there's a real value added to that service because it generates the business. It's not somebody who wants a mooring who has to dive down into the city website to find, after the ball fields and something else to find the dock reservation.
Yeah, they have quite a presentation of a slide deck they sent us, and I don't know that we want to look at all that right now, but it's all about economic development is what this is. They've got Milford Landing, the Linsman Milford Landing marina that I go to a lot with my family. They've just put everything on DACWA for that. And they've increased the activity by more than 20%, I believe is what they said, just at that in revenue, just from running it, because they have a great website that is seamless to make a reservation, and they tell you right away if you've got one or you don't have one. Take care of the money. It's all by credit card. You don't have to check in or check out. It's a pretty neat service, and they do a lot of marina work. They could also take over do all our transient moorings and mooring fields. All of that is all in their capability range if we wanted to move that way. So I think it's something we should do. The hard part is if we can just sort of sign up without having to have an act of Congress in City Hall to get it done, because there seems to be just an impediment there.
Bruce, did Jeff share with you that C-Flex scenario?
Yes.
With Alan?
I saw their proposal.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
What's your thoughts on
Did you get
that?
it, Bruce?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, I should forward that to you. It's what Milford uses for all of their. They don't have moorings per se in their harbor. What they have are small independent floating docks. They
Oh,
each
the
have
dock, floating docks.
two or four boats on them, two on either side kind of thing. And they design a whole attachment mechanism. They're screw-in moorings and rubber connections, so the whole thing can stay put. And they dock 2 or 4 boats to them. And in lieu of having moorings, it gives them much more density than they would have on full swing moorings. But the floating dock is something that someone can tie up to more easily than do a fore and aft mooring.
Yeah.
And that's what they've had in Milford for a long time.
I've seen those in other places, where the visitor's dock is, you know, is a linear wooden dock that you can tie up to. And it, like you said, you don't need a fore and aft. You can, and if you have a narrow channel that you need to keep everybody in line with, you know, this does that. You don't need the full hook swing.
Right, that's the point I'm getting to, because that would eliminate that fore and aft
Right.
need.
Yeah, well, particularly even in the East Basin, you know, it's it would solve all that. And again, you still have to have a way to get from that floating dock to shore, whether it's
Sure,
a launch
yeah.
service or your own dink. But it's kind of a neat system.
Well,
The only thing I haven't studied enough, had concerns about, is that, you know, our harbor out in the middle of it's a lot less protected than the Milford River or whatever river
Right,
that is.
I was just gonna say it's more
Milford is
protected.
very, very, very protected there. So it's a whole different situation in a storm and
Well,
that's what
share that with Bruce, the proposal.
I'll forward it to you. I didn't realize you weren't on that.
Yeah.
I thought he was part of that.
I did too.
So,
But that'd be a good idea to do something like that more, you know, closer to the ramps, you know? to the-
yeah,
To the city dock,
that's
and
the
then have a
thought.
couple,
And maybe we could get a proposal based on that. But, you know, running up the flagpole with the guys that you're dealing with on a daily basis that are dropping the moorings and all of that.
You
To
need,
get,
yeah, you need,
get their
you need
thoughts.
I mean, I don't know if you could do it without pilings, with our tidal swing in our harbor, or else, you know, at low tide, that thing is going to have a lot more play, and you obviously don't want to be able to have the thing submerged at a storm tide.
Right.
So you probably need piles, and then you're getting into something. Well,
Way
in
too
any
expensive.
case, it's something that you know,
I don't-
CNC
yeah, I
marine
don't-
type construction.
Hey,
Period.
Jeff.
I mentioned some things that, not that I know anything, but I worked on that proposal in Milford many years ago with the Milford Harbor Master, who was a really interesting guy. And there's two interesting things: that you're not limited to the $200 maximum mooring permit fee. Because
That's right. That's the good
those are
point
not,
about that.
they're not considered moorings. We actually have an opinion from Richard Blumenthal, who was the Attorney General then, who said that you're not limited to the $200 fee. And the other thing was we had to get a permit from DEEP because of the number of those floating. Each one would probably, if you just had one, you wouldn't need a DEEP permit. But because there were so many of them, we had to get a permit from DEEP to cover those essentially floating docks. But that's something that could be worked on. But the pardon me, but the point I wanted to make, and I don't know much about this, but when we had those helix anchors years ago that were south of the visitors dock, alongside the channel, that's the area where DOT now has permission to moor
for the barges.
for the extent of the 5 or 6 years of the project that they're work vessels. And then also a major part of the south anchorage, according to their drawings, would be taken up for the duration of the bridge permit with the 4.5 moorings for two very large barges. So our question was, how many people will be displaced from the south anchorage, and also how does this diminish the city's plans now to provide transient moorings in different locations? And that was
Who do we send
one
a
of the
bill to?
arguments we made in the DEP hearing process, that this was done without consultation from the harbor master and the impact on local mooring permit holders. But I guess we can raise that to the Corps of Engineers as well.
How do we do
All right.
that?
Well, the Corps of Engineers has to issue permits for the anchoring of those barges as well.
I know we had some money in the budget to do this, didn't we, Alan?
Yeah, well, we have, yes.
Okay, so it's within the budget?
What is which within the budget? These our mooring things are. I mean, we're talking about
And the dock walk cost?
yeah. We have money for that in our budget, but I don't know, but these floating docks are not inexpensive. I can't remember what the numbers are.
No, they're expensive. So depending on how many you get, obviously. But I'm not talking about the floating docks for now. That's something we could plan on for next year.
Yeah.
If we decide to move forward on it with more investigation. But right now we're within our budget. We have allocated funds that would cover the placement of moorings and the cost of dock walk.
Of our out of pocket for that.
Notwithstanding the income that will be derived from it.
Right.
Okay, so that's basically, we're covered in that regard. But again, I like to see it to be net revenue neutral at the bare minimum and revenue producing. Now, within that 166 and 199, up to how many moorings are included in that?
I think as many as you want.
What? Yeah, it was unlimited.
Yeah, there was no limitation on that.
Yeah,
They
so
have
to do
different-
it for two would be kind of like, you know,
$1,000 a piece.
yeah, so,
For-
Well, so like I'm saying, I like to add a couple out put a couple out amongst the islands. That's where you're going to get your draw also. The people come in and want to hook up for an
right,
overnight.
so this is our test year with it. So I would like to say that if we get anywhere, a minimum of 4 to 5 out there in total.
Yeah.
Okay.
As our test pilot program. And then, you know, we'll look, because I'm sure we're gonna find several other mooring spots that have been utilized but never paid for, that we can now put on that dock-wash system. You know, on the upcoming year, because of Bruce's due diligence, because he's made some very major inroads just in passing in this particular time frame while he's home recuperating.
Yeah. True.
The impediment with Norwalk Harbor is that it's shallow, so we don't have a lot of areas you could moor a sailboat with an 8-foot draft. Say there aren't a lot of those, but
Yeah, that's because your brain only goes to sailboats.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
So it's a shallower situation. I think you have to, figuring on the economic development aspect for the city. I think it's huge to get more people coming in and going to Soto and the mall and stepping stones and all the things we have to offer. I just think it's just we've a very popular summer destination. And we need to talk maybe offline about how to get around the city a little bit on getting some support for the
Well, we got to do some face to face with them too.
Yeah.
So, all right. So could we put a motion together, Alan?
Well, I would like to pursue this. I don't know how what we can do. We can. I think we need to reach out to the controller of the city to see if we already have something set up with the DACWA to get that piece sorted out. We have to be in touch, get somebody to respond from Recreation and Parks about a dinghy tie-up location. I talked to Ken Hughes at length about that at one time, and it kind of got blown off in that conversation.
Well, it depends on what the locations are, and wherever you're putting by the islands, especially if you're going to where the seaport has their lighthouse,
Sheffield.
Yeah,
Sheffield. You go to
shore.
You're
gonna need permission to tie off dinghies there as well.
Yeah. I think that would be it's very simple to achieve with those guys. They'd be very eager to have managed moorings in front of their place.
Right, I'm sure.
For that purpose.
Pavilion and all that stuff.
Well, they asked for a $10 donation if you come on your own vessel to.
There you go.
Right.
So that's already,
So-
that's already in place, but yes. we'll-
There's no objection that I'm hearing from the commission, so follow up and let's see if we can get it where sometime in, by the end of July, we have something
Right.
working.
Do you want a motion to do that, or show, I mean, I just think that's,
No, I think that we're just giving you a direction to go and. come-
thank you.
That's
that we'll
good.
finalize
Thank
We'll
you.
do it.
And have, be complete with all the background information, the permissions, the controller's office, the locations, even if you can have the locations by GPS, whatever.
Well, they do all that too.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
if you
you know.
could designate where they're gonna go and maybe have a little map to show where imprinted on one of our existing maps to where it's gonna go. That'll work best, I think, at the end of the day. All right, so that's
Good
good.
job. Good job, Captain Kibbe.
Good job, Captain
Anything
Lavella.
else in your report, Bruce?
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Anything else in your report?
That's it. That's it.
All right, Jeff, did you have something else you want to bring to the fore?
No, not now. We have a number of things to work on that are really significant, I think, including those grants, the grant for the Small Harbor Improvement Project Program funds. for the
Right,
speed
so
ends.
more information to come on that.
More to come.
I don't see anybody here from Shellfish. So I'm guessing no report. Mooring and harbor safety. Dennis?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we continue to monitor the applications and address any issues and concerns. We have 58 approved applications, 62 renewals under review. We received the first payment from the Rowayton Yacht Club and the Norwalk Yacht Club. And at least 2 months ago, in one of my reports, I mentioned that Sprite Island also made their first payment. I will be back again on the emails to these people to get the final payment. These two were late this time because apparently, at least for one, I believe it was Norwalk, my email went into spam and they didn't realize it was there. And there's also both have, well, I should say mostly Norwalk has a new dock person, so a new mooring person. So he's still green and not understanding the system, but I will keep on top of that.
And Bruce, are you gonna be doing monitoring for verification of vessels and moorings?
I didn't hear that.
Are you gonna be doing monitoring or verification of the amount of moorings that are out there in the managed fields?
Oh, yeah, I do it whenever I receive the check, the final check I do, yes.
No, you're looking at their paperwork. I'm talking about Bruce Field.
No, yes, I would like to get at least a number of moorings that are out there, and I would like to do like a one-on-one,
Right.
to match up the name or more, whatever with the vessel.
Now I'm talking about the managed fields.
Right.
Okay.
Bruce.
And others, all of them. All right.
Bruce, I can give you the paperwork on the
Okay.
3 managed fields.
Okay.
Go through that if you'd like.
Okay.
All right. Finance, Alan? Alan? Alan, are you there? Well, we'll skip that. We'll go to plans and recommendations, which Jeff is not here. Water quality, Joe and John. You're muted, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The meeting earlier this month, we reviewed several things. First of all, we did a quick check on the Wilson Point Cove. And that was partially at the request of the Wilson Point Homeowners Association, because they had concerns about the city storm sewers at the north end of the cove and whether or not they were emitting bacteria or anything else. And Dick Harris, as well as Harbor Watch, has been in there, and their early tests indicate everything was good, which was a wonderful thing this early in the season. The other thing we discussed was whether or not Eversource was going to do spraying, and they backed off. They decided not to do spraying. I did point out that we did have early algae blooms in the harbor. And the other thing I pointed out to the group was that USGS monitoring of the harbor with the monitors that were off of the Maritime Aquarium indicated that there were several days where we got readings of less than down to 2 or less parts per million of oxygen. And I sent that out. I sent copies of that out to most of the Water Quality Committee, and John, I think you have them.
Yes.
And I followed up with it, and Mrs. Becky got back to me today and basically said that was a whoops, that they had ran into fouling issues with the monitors, and that they fouled over and therefore were not producing accurate oxygen levels. And I know from my experience doing the water quality monitoring for my sound, that May, June, July, and August, that can happen literally almost overnight. And it required constant monitoring of the meters and the probes. A company by the name of YSI actually has a product that you could spray on your probes that make it last a little bit longer, and they resist fouling. So I sent a note back to Mrs. Becky, and we'll hear back to whether or not they use that type of anti-fouling stuff. But any monitoring in that area during the summer, you have to expect fouling. It happens so quickly, it's unbelievable. And I never found out why. Was it the sewage treatment plant? Was it the confluence of the fresh and the salt water? It could be a lot of different things, but it happens. And that's it. Jeff?
Well, I saw the paper copy of the Stanford Advocate from a few days ago, and I'm assuming the same article was in the Hour. But it was a very nice article, Joe, about studying horseshoe crabs, and you were prominently included. I'd like to hear more about that at an appropriate time.
I couldn't hide fast enough.
I thought it was a very interesting article, but
yeah, I'll tell you, it was last Tuesday, and I've been doing that since 2003, and with the group that was there, the cool air, flat water, and a beautiful full moon, and horseshoe crabs we could not keep up with. It was probably the best night I can remember overall. And it's probably one of the top 5 nights I've ever seen for horseshoe crabs. So it was a wonderful night. John, I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Alan, back to you. Finance and also newsletter and website.
We on the website we shared some material or links to material on the city's website for Jeff, and I hope that was helpful to you. It took a little while to get the stuff up on the city's server so that we could link to it, but that's was accomplished. On the screen share. Oops. Don't want that. There it is. You know, our again, we're starting to see, as Dennis said, we're starting to see some revenue come in from for our moorings. I show we've had from the city $8,235 posted on mooring revenue so far. We've received our $3,000 grant from the for the water quality program from the health department, and we're starting to see expenses on the health department side for some $1,851 for the two of the water quality intern people who have started to work. Our on hand right now at the as of today is we have $26,436.90 sitting here. That's we'll continue to see mooring revenue come in. Our online mooring service.
Alan, what are we looking at?
You're looking at our spreadsheet.
No, we're not.
I don't know. I'm looking at a credit card account. Is that yours?
Yeah.
Bank of America,
Is it good?
Amazon bill.
Paused my. Wow. That's really embarrassing. Let's see if this works. I can't see what you see. That better?
There you go.
There you go.
Wow. This is a pretty good presentation. Looking, do you see my mouse zooming around my credit card charges?
No, just the spreadsheet.
Don't worry, mine's worse.
That's pretty cool. So, like I said, we have our revenue that's been posted to our account and is about $8,200 from mooring revenue. We received $3,000 from the health department for our water quality program. Our online mooring charges. To move this to see. We've had $1,044 in mooring, online mooring charges posted to our account. That's about it. And our cash available is $26,500 roughly.
Okay.
Any other? I mean, that's where we are.
All right.
And usually that for us to have that amount of money on hand is pretty significant. Our grant from the city is $24,000 this year, so that will be credited to us in August. That's usually when that shows up on our account.
Right.
So we're $26,500 on our own, and we'll have another grant coming in 24. What's not shown, hasn't hit our account yet, is there's $3,200 worth of Telesco secretarial services that going back to May of
Yeah, let's make sure that they don't bill
2020.
tonight.
And they, I went through that bill. We did have meetings on all of those days. I assume that we had must have had minutes from those, but the bills are going to the city clerk and not being paid. Is where they were. And
Right, but also with the pandemic very early on, I remember many a meeting that got recorded and the minutes done off the recording. I don't know who did them, but Telesco was not on the call on several of them.
I think Telesco got the recording and typed the minutes.
And transcribed it.
Transcribed it.
And probably charged us for whatever their minimum was.
They charge us by the hour. I mean, some of the meetings had 5 hours worth of transcription time. Some of them were 2 hours. It's typically in the $200 range per meeting for the service from those guys.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to public comment. I see that there's 3 people from the public, now 2 maybe, that are out there. If anyone wants to speak. If not, forever hold your peace. Or at least for this meeting.
Alan, you want to click stop sharing?
That's better, huh?
I don't see anybody raising their hand. Okay, let's go to approval of minutes. Did Pinto put in his normal changes, John?
Yeah, well, actually, not too many. I don't think I see any from him this time. But no, whoever sent in their comments, I included them and they're posted. Yeah, and by
Okay,
the way,
so-
I included Alan's financial report as an attachment. And if anything else comes up, I can also include that as an attachment,
Okay, cool.
if you like that idea.
So can we have an approval of the minutes, please?
Prove it.
Matt moves, and there's a second. Second by Alan. All in fa- Not in
Second.
favor, and not in favor, or any abstentions? So moved. All right, great meeting. Went along very well. Anybody have anything to bring up before we close? None? I have a motion to adjourn.
So move,
Motion.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, well, thank you very much. Good to see everyone, and look forward to next meeting.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
And we'll
Good night,
follow
everyone.
up with reports, because we have several meetings coming up in committee that we're gonna be following up on.
Good.
Thank you all.
Good.